guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Neighbor Forced Me to Destroy My Fence. I Got Revenge with Naked Mannequins and Embarrassed Him. TLDR. Neighbor forces me to cut down my tall fence that I have to keep in my 3 dogs. I get revenge by setting up mannequins in the backyard completely naked for him to see. He tries to complain to the city only to get told there was nothing they could do. The rest of the neighborhood sides with me and I become popular as the guy who keeps posing mannequins in his backyard. Around my property I had a very high fence around it. It wasn't that I was unfriendly with the neighbors, it was just that I have 3 Great Danes who tended to want to jump over the smaller fence in their younger days. They are older now and know to stay within the property, but the tall fence remained. It was still good to have for them and it gave me the bonus of my own privacy. The people I live near are mostly okay, they just have a tendency to want to be nosy and in everyone else's business. So having my yard be safe from prying eyes is a nice thing for me. Unfortunately, one of these neighbors clearly didn't like this and caught me when I was walking my dogs one morning. Neighbor. Hey, you live there with the giant side fence, right? Me. Yes? Is there a problem? Neighbor. No, I was just wondering when you were going to cut it down to a respectable size. I was shocked at how blatant this man was being. Me. I wasn't really planning on changing it. My dogs are big, so I need a big fence to keep them inside of it. Plus, I like how it is. Neighbor. Having it so high must be encroaching on your next door neighbor's property though. I didn't know how he would have even come to that conclusion or knew how to respond to it at the time. If I knew what he was going to do next I might have thought a witty reply. Instead I just made an excuse to slink away from him. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of this guy, who I learned was living in the house behind mine and I'm guessing didn't like my tall fence from the back. He ended up going to the city and complaining about the height of my fence. He ended up getting them to agree with him and I was forced to shorten my fence to match the rest of the neighborhood. My dogs were excited that they could now stand on 2 feet and peek over the fence at everyone passing by. It wasn't the worst situation, but I was still mad at him for making me remove my fence and telling me what to do with my property. Especially now that neighbors were now able to see inside of my yard and make stupid comments about my lawn and my dogs running around. So, I decided that I was going to get revenge on this guy, and I knew just how I was going to do it. A while back a buddy of mine closed down his clothing store and had all sorts of things still in his possession. These included a bunch of mannequins that he had no use for. So, I called him up and asked if I could take them off of his hands and soon I was the new owner of 5 full-sized mannequins. Now the real fun began as I transformed my backyard daily like it was a dollhouse with all the mannequins in different positions. Sometimes they were innocent while other times they could be perceived as a little dirty. No matter what though I made sure they were 100% naked at all times. This infuriated neighbor and he tried his best to contact the city again saying that I was doing lewd things. They basically told him that there was no law about mannequins, and it didn't really count as nudity. Additionally, it was my own backyard, so they had no control over what I was doing in it as long as I wasn't breaking any laws. Instead of giving up though he thought it would be a good idea to come and try to threaten me to my face. Ironically he did this by going over the fence into my backyard, which I know is technically trespassing but didn't want to deal with that legally. Neighbor. Don't think you are going to get away with your perversion. Me. What are you talking about? Neighbor. All those naked things in your yard trying to corrupt everyone that it's okay to not have any clothing on and expose themselves. This day they were actually looking pretty innocent where I had them having a little barbecue with one mannequin wearing a chef's hat and manning the grill while the others sat or stood around holding paper plates. Me. They can't expose themselves, they have nothing to expose. Neighbor. I can call the police on you and get you put on some sex offender list for things like this. Me. Feel free to call them, the city already told you thought that I wasn't doing anything illegal. Besides everyone else in the neighborhood seems to love what I am doing with them, I even set up their own Instagram if you want to follow it. Neighbor. I see that you think you are so funny. You won't think it's so funny when something terrible happens to them when you are asleep. I have a feeling they are going to vanish, and everyone will realize how wrong it was. Me. I have cameras, so if anyone comes to make them vanish, I will know. And you would be the prime theft suspect, as you are on camera right now threatening to do it. He didn't have a response after that and sulked away back to his own yard. I wasn't kidding though when I said that I had made them their own Instagram, which wasn't viral by any means, but most of my neighbors followed it. I didn't change their positions every day, but when I was bored or wanting to feel creative, I would come up with different poses they could be in and write little captions of their situations. With the ideas of holidays thrown into the mix, I not only had a ton of ideas of my own, but suggestions and recommendations from neighbors. Someone had even contacted me asking if I wanted a few more, but I declined. I didn't want to go down a slope that I would end up with 100 of these things. Also, side note, if anyone is curious, my dogs took a while to understand that the mannequins weren't real people and now mostly ignore them when they are in the backyard to run around or do their business. There was also one more instance I saw on camera of neighbor trying to come over the fence only for my 3 dogs to think he was playing and tried to chase after him. 3 Great Danes that you don't know are friendly running after you would scare most people, so that put a stop to him climbing over the fence as well. The next story is titled, Homeowner Association towed my girlfriend's car and won't provide documentation of parking regulations. Last week my girlfriend's car was towed by a private towing company, and we had to go pick it up after paying almost $300 in fees. The towing company stated they are contracted by our homeowner association, and the violation was that the car had not been moved in 2 days. My girlfriend and I recently moved to our unit back in June but have never received any notice or documentation that explained this parking regulation. We even asked our neighbors who have been here for 30 years, and they said they have never heard of that rule nor been towed for having their cars parked over 2 days. Both of our cars are registered with homeowner association as well. Our landlord is my father, who owns the unit. He provided us the homeowner association contact information, and we left Pam, we will call the homeowner association person that, a voicemail and email asking for assistance. Well, Pam never returned our call, so we called her again a few days later. She was rude and said that she refuses to speak with tenants and only deals with the owner, which is my father. We emailed her asking for documentation that we are not allowed to keep our cars out for more than 48 hours, but she has repeatedly refused to assist. Has anybody had any experience or suggestions on how we may get this matter resolved or escalated? Our landlord was never made aware of the parking rule and will be trying to get in contact with Pam this week, but has had issues with homeowner association in the past as well. For example, when we submitted a work order to approve the repairs of our garage door, homeowner association kept denying our request because the color the contractors provided did not match the rest of the neighbors' doors. When we asked for a color code, they simply stated they do not have one and to go outside and look at the color ourselves. This issue in itself delayed our garage repairs for weeks, and we now need to wait until the weather clears in order to fix our garage, hence why our cars are parked on the street. We are simply requesting documentation of the parking regulation, as there are no signs posted on the street stating we cannot have our cars in the same spot for 48 hours. If they are unable to provide this information, are there alternative options to pursue? Update. Our landlord, my dad, ended up reimbursing us for the tow since Pam would not speak with my girlfriend and me. He's super busy with his other job, and so I don't have all the details. However, I guess we rattled homeowner association a bit because a few days ago they posted a notice on all residents' doors with some updates and reminders on parking regulations. In the notice, the board said they plan to have the curbs of our cul-de-sacs painted yellow and additional signage placed among the streets indicating where we may or may not park. Previously, there was a rock used to indicate where you couldn't park on the roundabout, and we were told by neighbors that we couldn't park there previously or else we would have had no idea. Also, they never had parking signs anywhere, except a few signs by the entrances saying that the towing company has the right to tow with their fees and number listed, but no parking signs indicating any rules. The best outcome is that Pam told my dad that they will not have the towing company patrol the streets anymore due to the recent complaints and my GF's car being wrongfully towed. This is a great win, because it was a very predatory practice, and this was our biggest concern/frustration with the whole situation. Now the towing company only has authority to tow if they are called in to do so. I'm sure that the towing company and the board are not happy, but maybe they finally realized all the possible legal issues that could have exploded if they had continued with their previous practices. Thank you to everyone who had previously commented on my previous post with their thoughts and advice. It really helped my girlfriend and I when we were emailing Pam with our frustrations, and I think we really got to them when pointing out a few things mentioned by other users. I hope this is. The last story is titled, Neighbors Suing Me Over Home Daycare. State of Michigan. I share an easement with a neighbor. The easement is our driveway and access to the road. One of the conditions of the easement that we both agreed upon in a contract between us is that there will be no commercial business at our homes. The reason for this is because the previous owners ran a landscaping company and had large trucks and deliveries all the time, as well as left a big mess. I have had a small home daycare for 4 years. In Michigan that means 4 to 6 kids. Before I opened and received my license with the state of Michigan, I checked with the state and township to make sure a home daycare was not considered a commercial business. It is not. My contact at the state of Michigan sent me the specific law/guidelines where it states that home daycares are not to be considered commercial businesses. The wording is very clear on this. A few months ago, about 5, I received a license to open a larger, group home daycare. Still considered a non-commercial business. It was approved by the township. My neighbor was there at the township meeting, and he was very angry. This was the first time he has ever spoken to us. I had no idea he had any ill will toward the daycare at all. We've lived here 5 years and I still have never met his wife. They are older, he is an attorney. The way our houses sit, we both have some acreage, we don't have to see each other. So, he can't see or hear the daycare kids from his home. Due to his really obvious hate of the daycare, I never opened up my group family home. I just kept the small daycare. I'm unaware if he knows that, since he does not want to talk. His complaint is that I am in violation of the easement agreement. He states my daycare parents have backed into his property. No, they haven't, and that the extra traffic is causing the road to deteriorate faster. My husband and I were actually in agreement with this. We wanted to go offer to pay for 90% of the road when it was time to repave it. Currently we would have to pay for 60%, but we are probably 10 years away from that. However, I found out he is running his law practice in his home, with 2 employees. So, he also has traffic on the easement due to business. I'm less likely to offer more now. I was just served today but I have had to put up with the following. 1. I have received threatening letters from his attorney. All legal I'm sure, but it sure feels like harassment. 2. He has gone into our pole barn and had his attorney write up a letter, stating it looks like we have yet another commercial business going on, due to what he found there. He's crazy, we literally have an empty pole barn. We don't even have fun toys. 3. He is taking pictures of the daycare kids while they are outside, and it's creepy. He goes to the edge of the property line, towards us, and just takes pics. 4. He is menacing to the daycare parents as they pass his property. You have to pass his home to get to ours. He also takes their picture as they pass. Several parents have commented on this weird behavior and how disturbing they find it. 5. We had a land survey done when we first moved in. He keeps taking out the stakes. He is also telling the landscaping company that his unchristian neighbors are trying to take his property. He keeps a sign up for the landscaping neighbors that states this, also. I.e. don't go beyond this point because our Christian neighbors are trying to illegally take our land. For the record, a survey was done by the previous owners, the stakes were in the same place, and he pulled those stakes up, too. He knows where his property should end. 6. The one conversation I did have with him, I tried to talk to him after the daycare township meeting. He was extremely rude, told me he was going to sue me for everything I had, shut down my daycare, and questioned my intelligence in a not so nice way. I had only nicely said to him, I would like to talk to you about the daycare. It seems to really upset you. I used to work in counseling, so I'm used to diffusing situations. It did not work this time. I've never met someone so bent on trying to get me, without ever even trying to talk to me. I realize a home daycare might not be everyone's favorite neighbor, but we did consider the fact that he cannot see or hear our home a major plus. And until we found out he has his own business from his home, we were more than willing to pay to have more of the driveway paved when necessary. Any thoughts? I'm writing up my response to his summons and complaint tonight and I'm all but flying blind. Update. I spoke with an attorney for a consultation. That attorney said whether or not I win will depend on how the judge is feeling that day. He said he just finished a similar case. The attorney was very honest and stated to hire him would be upwards of 20 kelvins for what the neighbor has planned. Basically, to bankrupt me and try to run me out of my home. I have decided not to hire a lawyer with this information. I am representing myself. In addition, my husband and I own all of the property our neighbor sees. The enjoyment of his home/property fully depends on what we do with ours. Yesterday I received permission to build a 3-acre dirt bike path on our property, which is right out his beautiful bay windows. We own the property on 3 sides of his home, and the 4th side faces condos. Stinks to be him, I guess. We have been very kind neighbors up until this point. My original plan for that area that overlooks his home was to build a Michigan wetland conservation area. It's a marshy area and I was working with someone from Michigan State University to plant things that are going extinct in the state of Michigan. Well, bollocks to that. I called his attorney, stated I was representing myself. I told him my husband and I put out 6 signs. They're awful, really, really awful. Spray painted neon pink and camo green, in the neighbor's backyard/our backyard. They all say no trespassing and under construction, yada yada. I let his lawyer know if the court case against my daycare was not dropped, and no meeting of the minds could be agreed upon by Friday. Then on Saturday my husband and I will begin building our 3-acre dirt bike path for our 10-year-old son. We just received permission for it yesterday. I also let him know we received permission to have livestock on our property, add a fence, that there was no limit to lawn decorations, and our home is actually zoned as multi-family, meaning we can turn our home into apartments, and if he thinks there is traffic from 4 vehicles now, just wait. The beauty of this is, because his home is a few acres away and we have highly wooded trees around us, as opposed to their marshy view, we won't be able to see any of the things we do. So, it doesn't affect us. Immature? Yes. But he has decided to sue me instead of simply discussing things with me and seems intent on demolishing my job and income. So, I guess my course of action is to bring down the value of his home. Thanks for listening.